Noah Pierce sat frozen in humiliation as his blind date stared at the photo of his 7-year-old daughter, then stood without a word. "You're not my type," she said coldly, walking out of the restaurant on Christmas night. His chest tightened with familiar shame, another woman who saw his child as a deal-breaker, another reminder that he was damaged goods. Then a voice cut through his spiral. "Excuse me." He looked up to find a striking woman at the next table, her expression unreadable but her next words impossible. "I know this sounds insane, but can you be my new husband?" If you're intrigued by where this story goes, please stay until the end. I promise you won't regret it. And when you're done, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The restaurant was done up in forced cheer. Twinkling lights strung across exposed brick, a small pine tree blinking red and green in the corner, Christmas music playing just loud enough to make conversation feel like work. Noah Pierce had chosen the place because it seemed safe, neutral, the kind of spot where a first date could either bloom into something or gracefully fade without drama. He hadn't counted on this. Melissa, his date, arranged by a well-meaning coworker, had seemed promising in their brief text exchanges. She was a corporate attorney with a quick wit and an appreciation for classic films. She'd laughed at his jokes about terrible superhero movies. She'd suggested this restaurant herself. For 3 days, Noah had allowed himself a sliver of hope, the kind he'd learned to ration carefully over the past 2 years. Then she'd asked to see a photo of his daughter. He should have known better. He should have buried that detail deeper into the conversation, waited until after dessert, maybe until a second date when there was already momentum. But when Melissa asked about his family with what seemed like genuine warmth, Noah had pulled out his phone without thinking, swiping to his lock screen. Daisy at the beach last summer, gap-toothed and glowing, her dark curls wild with salt and wind. Melissa's smile had flickered like a candle in a draft. "You have a daughter," she'd said, and it wasn't a question. "Daisy, she just turned 7. Noah heard the pride creeping into his voice despite his best efforts to stay casual. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me." Melissa had set her wine glass down with careful precision. Her eyes went somewhere else, somewhere calculated, and Noah felt the shift in the air, that familiar cooling, the emotional temperature dropping degree by degree until he could practically see his breath. "How old did you say?" 7. "And her mother?" Noah's throat tightened. "She passed away 2 years ago." The words still felt like swallowing glass. Caroline, his wife. The woman who'd taught him what love actually meant, who'd given him Daisy, who'd been stolen by an aneurysm so sudden and brutal that Noah sometimes still woke up reaching for her, convinced the last 2 years had been the nightmare, and she'd be there, warm and real and present. Melissa had nodded slowly, her expression settling into something practiced, something Noah had seen before on other faces. Pity mixed with relief. Relief that she'd discovered the complication early, before investment, before mess. "I see," she'd said, and those 2 words contained multitudes. "Noah, you seem like a really nice guy, but I need to be honest with you." She'd stood then, gathering her coat and purse with efficient movements. "You're not my type. I'm looking for someone less complicated." She'd left a 20 on the table, her share of the wine they'd barely touched, and walked out into the snowy Christmas night without looking back. Noah sat there in the aftermath, his daughter's face still glowing on his phone screen, and felt the shame wash over him in waves. Not complicated. As if Daisy was a problem to be solved, an inconvenience to be avoided. As if loving his daughter made him somehow broken, unworthy, too much work. This was the 4th time in 6 months. 4th date that had ended the moment his daughter entered the conversation. His sister Emily insisted he was just meeting the wrong women, that the right person would love Daisy as much as he did, but Noah was starting to suspect the truth was simpler and crueler. He was a single father in his early 30s, still half lost in grief, raising a child alone in a 2-bedroom apartment that always smelled faintly of mac and cheese. He was nobody's idea of a catch. He should leave. The restaurant was emptying out, couples heading home to warm houses and families, and here he sat like some Christmas tragedy, alone at a table set for 2. But moving required energy he didn't have, required facing the cold walk to his car and the quiet drive home where Emily was babysitting, and would take one look at his face and know exactly how the night had gone. So he stayed, stared at the candle burning low in its glass holder, listened to Bing Crosby dream of a white Christmas while his own dreams felt smaller and more impossible by the minute. "Excuse me." The voice was low, controlled, with an edge of something Noah couldn't immediately identify. He looked up to find a woman standing beside his table, not his server, someone from another table entirely. She was perhaps his age, maybe a year or two younger, with dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail and features that would photograph well, but weren't quite beautiful in person, too sharp somehow, too intense. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Noah's monthly rent, and her expression was impossible to read. "I'm sorry?" Noah managed. She glanced at the empty chair across from him, at the abandoned $20 bill, at Noah's phone still displaying Daisy's picture. Her eyes, deep brown, almost black, took in the whole scene in seconds, and Noah saw something flicker there. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. "I know this sounds completely insane," she said, and her voice was steady despite the words, "but can you be my new husband?" Noah blinked, looked around for cameras, for some indication this was a prank or a social experiment. The restaurant staff was busy clearing other tables. The remaining diners were absorbed in their own conversations. No one was paying attention to what was surely the strangest proposition ever uttered in this establishment. "I'm sorry, what?" The woman, she couldn't be serious, pulled out the chair Melissa had vacated and sat down with the kind of natural authority that suggested she was used to taking what she wanted. Up close, Noah could see the fine lines around her eyes, the exhaustion poorly hidden beneath expensive makeup, the way her hands trembled slightly as she folded them on the table. "I know how that sounds," she said. "Believe me, I'm not in the habit of proposing to strangers in restaurants, but I was sitting right there." She gestured to a nearby table where an untouched plate of pasta was growing cold, "and I couldn't help overhearing your conversation. Well, the end of it." Noah felt heat creep up his neck. "You heard that she walked out because you have a daughter, yes." The woman's expression hardened. "I heard her say you were too complicated, as if loving your child makes you somehow defective." She leaned forward slightly, and Noah caught a whiff of expensive perfume mixed with something earthier, coffee, maybe, or stress. "So here's my situation. I'm Vivian Hale. I run a tech startup that's just gone through Series B funding. I'm 34 years old. I can't have children due to a medical condition, and I've spent the last 3 years watching men walk away the moment I tell them that. The last guy, a venture capitalist I genuinely thought I might love, said I was incomplete as a woman." Noah winced. "Jesus." "Exactly." Vivian's smile was sharp, humorless. "So I was sitting over there eating overpriced carbonara alone on Christmas because my family's dinner turned into another interrogation about why I'm not married yet, and I heard your date reject you for having a child. And I thought, there's a certain logic here, isn't there? You keep getting rejected because you have a daughter. I keep getting rejected because I can't have children. What if we solved each other's problem?" The absurdity of it, the sheer, staggering impossibility, made Noah laugh, a sharp bark of sound that drew a few glances from neighboring tables. "You're asking me to marry you, a complete stranger." "I'm asking you to consider a logical solution to an illogical problem," Vivian corrected. Her tone was so matter-of-fact, she might have been discussing quarterly projections. "Look, I've tried the traditional route. I've done the dating apps, the setups, the networking events. I've wasted years on men who wanted my money, my connections, or my body, but ran the moment they realized I came with limitations. And you've clearly experienced the same rejection loop from the other side." "This is insane." "Probably." Vivian picked up Melissa's abandoned 20 and handed it to a passing server with a murmured request for 2 glasses of the house red. Once they were alone again, she continued, "But think about it practically. I'm financially stable, very stable. I'm looking for a real partnership, not a transaction. And I actually like kids. I wanted them before I found out that wasn't an option. You need someone who won't treat your daughter like a liability. I need someone who won't treat my inability to give you biological children like a deal breaker." The server returned with wine. Noah took a long drink, letting the mediocre Cabernet burn down his throat. His mind was spinning, trying to find purchase on this conversation that had veered so far outside normal human interaction it felt like fiction. "You don't know anything about me," he said finally. "I know you love your daughter enough to show her picture on a first date, knowing it might tank your chances. I know you stayed in this restaurant after being humiliated rather than making a scene. I know you're still wearing your wedding ring on a chain around your neck. I can see it under your collar, which means you're not over your wife, but you're trying to move forward anyway." Vivian's eyes softened slightly. "And I know that right now you're exhausted, of being rejected, of feeling like you have to apologize for the best part of your life." She wasn't wrong. Noah looked down at his wine, at his reflection distorted in the dark liquid, and felt something crack in his chest, something that had been holding together through sheer force of will. "Her name was Caroline," he heard himself say. "My wife. She died of a brain aneurysm. No warning, no goodbye. I found her on the bathroom floor, and Daisy was in the next room watching cartoons, and I had to—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "I had to call 911 while keeping my daughter from seeing her mother like that. She was 31. I'm so sorry." The words were simple, but something in Vivian's voice made Noah look up. There was recognition there, the kind that only came from personal understanding of loss. "I'm not looking to replace her," he said, needing Vivian to understand this fundamental truth. "I don't think I could." "I'm not asking you to." Vivian wrapped her hands around her wine glass like she was trying to absorb its warmth. "I'm asking if you're tired enough of the bullshit to try something different. Not a fake marriage for appearances. I have no interest in that kind of performance, but a real partnership built on mutual benefit and honest respect." "You're serious?" "Completely." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned it toward him. "That's my company, Hale Dynamics. We build data security software for healthcare systems. That's my apartment," another swipe, "in the converted factory building downtown. That's my family," a photo of a large holiday gathering, Vivian barely smiling among a sea of polished, judgmental faces. "Who I love, but who make me feel like a failure every time we're in the same room because I haven't produced grandchildren or locked down a suitable husband." Noah studied the photos. Everything about them screamed success, wealth, control. And yet here was Vivian proposing marriage to a grief-hollowed mechanic she'd just met, because she was apparently as desperate and exhausted as he was. "I fix cars," he said. "I work at Jensen's Auto Repair. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in the less nice part of town. I have about $14,000 in savings, and I spend most of it on Daisy's needs. I am not in your league." "I don't have a league," Vivian said quietly. "I have a balance sheet that looks good, and a personal life that's empty. I have a company full of people depending on me and no one to come home to. I have relatives who think I'm selfish for prioritizing my career and investors who think I'm weak for being single. I'm tired, Noah. I'm so tired of trying to prove I'm enough when the metrics keep changing." The vulnerability in her voice was startling, like watching armor develop cracks. Noah saw her then, not as some polished stranger with an absurd proposal, but as another person drowning in expectations they couldn't meet, reaching for any lifeline within grasp. "This is crazy," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Yes," Vivian agreed. "But is it crazier than spending the next 10 years getting rejected by people who can't see past their own narrow definitions of acceptable? Is it crazier than watching your daughter grow up knowing her father can't find anyone willing to love her too?" The words hit harder than they should have. Noah thought about Daisy asking, just last week, why Daddy didn't have someone like her friend Emma's mom had someone. Thought about how his daughter was learning, lesson by lesson, that she was an obstacle to his happiness, a burden that cost him chances at normalcy. "I would need time," he said slowly, feeling his way through this impossible conversation. "I can't just introduce Daisy to someone and say, 'Here's your new mother.' She lost Caroline. She's still having nightmares. She's still in therapy working through the grief." "Of course." Vivian leaned back, and Noah saw some of the tension ease from her shoulders, as if his consideration of this mad idea validated something she'd needed validated. "I'm not suggesting we get married tomorrow. I'm suggesting we try. Date, if that's what we're calling it. See if there's compatibility. If you'll let me, I'd like to meet your daughter. See if she's comfortable with me. And if she's not?" Then this doesn't work. Vivian's answer was immediate, unequivocal. I meant what I said. I actually like children. I wanted them. I'm not looking for a paper arrangement where I ignore the kid in exchange for social credibility. If Daisy and I don't connect, if she doesn't feel safe with me, then we stop. No harm done. Noah wanted to argue that harm was inevitable, that letting anyone into Daisy's life carried risk, that he'd already failed her once by not being able to save her mother. But he was also staring at the rest of his 30s, at years of being passed over and pitied, at his daughter learning to shrink herself to make him more palatable to potential partners. Why me? He asked. You could have approached anyone. You could hire someone if it's just about appearances. Vivian smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes, softening her sharp features. Because you stayed. After she rejected you, after that humiliation, you stayed in this seat. You didn't rage, didn't complain to the server, didn't make it anyone else's problem. You just sat here with your daughter's picture and took it. She paused. And because when you talk about her, Daisy, your whole face changes. You light up. Most men I meet want children as accessories, proof of virility or legacy or whatever. You want your daughter happy. That's rare. The assessment was so accurate, so seen, that Noah felt exposed. He took another drink of wine to buy time, to let his pulse settle. The restaurant was nearly empty now. Christmas music had given way to instrumental jazz. Outside the windows, snow was falling harder, coating the downtown streets in white. This was insane. Agreeing to this would be insane. But then he thought about Melissa's face when she'd seen Daisy's photo. That instant recalculation, that cooling. Thought about the woman before her, and all the ones who would come after, all finding ways to say that his daughter made him unworthy. Thought about Daisy asking why Daddy was alone, and what that question would sound like when she was 12, 15, 20, when she'd internalized the message that loving her cost him happiness. I need to think about it, Noah said, and I need to talk to my sister. She helps me with Daisy, and I trust her judgment. That's fair. Vivian pulled out a business card, actual paper, elegant and understated, and slid it across the table. My personal number is on the back. Call me when you've decided. Or don't call at all. Either way, I hope you find what you're looking for, Noah. You deserve better than women who see your daughter as a flaw. She stood, left cash for both wine glasses, and walked toward the exit with the same controlled grace she'd had approaching his table. At the door, she stopped and looked back. For what it's worth, she called across the nearly empty restaurant, from what I overheard tonight, Daisy is lucky to have you. Then she was gone, disappearing into the snow and the Christmas dark, leaving Noah sitting alone with a business card and a head full of impossible thoughts. He looked at his phone. Daisy's smile. The beach. The moment frozen when everything was still good, when Caroline was still alive and Noah still believed the universe was fundamentally fair. The card was heavy in his hand. Vivian Hale, CEO. A woman who'd looked at his greatest joy and seen not a complication, but a possibility. Noah finished his wine, paid his own bill, and walked out into the December cold. His car was 3 blocks away, half buried in snow. The drive home would be slow, treacherous. Emily would ask about the date with her eyes before he could say anything. Daisy would be asleep in her room, clutching the stuffed rabbit Caroline had given her, dreaming whatever 7-year-olds dreamed. And somewhere in the city, a woman he'd just met was probably pouring herself another drink, wondering if she'd just made the worst judgment call of her life, proposing marriage to a stranger. Noah climbed into his car, started the engine, and sat there while the heat struggled to life. The business card was in his pocket, a small weight of possibility. He thought about what his therapist had said months ago. Sometimes moving forward means trying things that feel impossible. He pulled out his phone and saved Vivian's number. Not calling yet, not deciding, just keeping the option alive. The drive home took 40 minutes through the storm. Emily was on the couch with her laptop when he let himself in, and she took one look at his face and closed the screen. That bad? She left when I mentioned Daisy. Emily's expression went dark. What is wrong with people? She said I was too complicated. Noah dropped onto the couch beside his sister, suddenly exhausted down to his bones. Said I wasn't her type. Her loss. Emily squeezed his shoulder. Daisy's asleep. She tried to wait up but crashed around 9. She made you a card, though. It's on the kitchen table. Noah found it there. Construction paper folded carefully, crayons in every color. On the front, Daisy had drawn 2 figures holding hands, one tall and one small. Inside, in her careful 7-year-old printing, "Thank you for being the best daddy. I love you forever." He pressed the card against his chest and felt the ache that had nothing to do with romantic rejection. His daughter. His purpose. The reason he got up every morning and pretended the world made sense. What would Caroline want for him? The question surfaced unbidden. Would she want him alone for the rest of his life, martyring himself to her memory? Or would she want him to find some version of happiness, some way to give Daisy the full family she deserved? He thought about Vivian's proposal, about partnership built on honesty rather than illusion, about someone who wouldn't flinch away from Daisy but might, possibly, choose her. Noah pulled out his phone and looked at Vivian's contact information, thought about how insane this was, how his sister would probably stage an intervention if he told her, thought about years of being rejected and diminished, about his daughter learning that she was too much. His thumb hovered over the call button. Then he put the phone down. Not tonight. Tonight he would just sit with the possibility, let it breathe, see if it survived the harsh light of morning. Tonight he would check on Daisy one more time, make sure she was warm and safe, whisper to her sleeping form that she was loved, that she always would be, that nothing about her was too much. Tomorrow he could decide if he was brave enough, or desperate enough, or hopeful enough to dial a stranger's number and say yes to the impossible. Tonight he would just be Daisy's father, and let that be enough. But as he stood in his daughter's doorway watching her sleep, Caroline's old rabbit clutched tight, Noah felt the business card in his pocket like a promise he wasn't quite ready to make but couldn't quite throw away. The snow kept falling outside. Christmas was over. And somewhere in the city, his phone quietly registered a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for not laughing at me. Whatever you decide, I meant what I said." Noah read it twice, 3 times. Then he typed a response he didn't send, deleting and retyping until the words felt true. "I'll think about it. That's all I can promise right now." He hit send before he could reconsider. The response came 30 seconds later. "That's all I'm asking." Noah waited 3 days before calling, 3 days of turning the decision over in his mind like a stone he couldn't put down. He went to work, fixed transmissions and brake lines, came home to Daisy's homework and bedtime stories, and felt Vivian's business card burning a hole in his wallet. Emily caught him staring at his phone twice, but she didn't ask, and Noah was grateful for the silence. On the 3rd night, after Daisy fell asleep mid-sentence during their reading of Charlotte's Web, Noah sat on the edge of his bed and dialed before he could talk himself out of it. Vivian answered on the 2nd ring. "I wasn't sure you'd call." "I wasn't sure either," Noah admitted. His bedroom was dark except for the streetlight filtering through cheap blinds, casting everything in amber and shadow. "But I can't stop thinking about what you said. About being tired." "Are you?" Her voice was quieter than it had been in the restaurant, more uncertain. "Tired enough to try something this unconventional?" Noah looked at the photo on his nightstand. Caroline on their wedding day, radiant and impossibly young, both of them so sure the universe would be kind. "I don't know if I'm brave or just desperate, but I think I want to find out." "Okay." He heard her exhale, a long release of held tension. "So where do we start?" "You said you wanted to meet Daisy." Noah's chest tightened around the words. "But I need you to understand, she's everything to me. If you hurt her, if you make her feel like she's not enough, I don't care about logic or partnership or any of it. We're done." I wouldn't expect anything less. There was no offense in Vivian's tone, just acceptance. "When and where? I'll work around your schedule." They settled on Saturday afternoon at the park near Noah's apartment, neutral territory where Daisy felt comfortable. After they hung up, Noah lay in the darkness and wondered what Caroline would think of this. Her husband meeting a stranger who'd proposed marriage over wine and rejection. But Caroline wasn't here to ask, and Noah had to trust his own judgment now, fractured as it felt. Saturday arrived cold and bright, the post-Christmas sun reflecting off week-old snow. Noah bundled Daisy into her purple winter coat and told her they were meeting a new friend at the park. keeping the explanation simple, refusing to build expectations he couldn't guarantee. Daisy was chattering about the bird feeder she wanted to build for science class, her breath misting in the frozen air, when Noah spotted Vivian. She looked different. The severe ponytail was gone, her hair loose around her shoulders, and instead of the expensive suit, she wore jeans and a thick sweater, boots that looked actually waterproof rather than fashionable. She'd dressed down deliberately, Noah realized, trying not to intimidate a 7-year-old with wealth and polish. "Hi," Vivian said as they approached, and her smile was nervous, uncertain in a way that made her seem more human. She crouched to Daisy's level, not towering over her. "You must be Daisy. Your dad told me you like to draw." Daisy pressed against Noah's leg, suddenly shy. "Sometimes. I used to draw too when I was your age, mostly horses. Terrible horses. They looked like dogs with long necks." Vivian pulled out her phone and scrolled to show a childhood drawing she'd apparently photographed just for this. "See? That's supposed to be a palomino. My art teacher said I had a distinctive style, which was a polite way of saying I couldn't draw." Daisy leaned forward to look, and Noah saw the corner of her mouth twitch. "That's pretty bad." "The worst," Vivian agreed solemnly. "What do you like to draw?" "Butterflies. And my family." Daisy glanced up at Noah, then back to Vivian. "Are you my daddy's new friend?" "I'm hoping to be," Vivian said carefully. "If that's okay with you." Daisy considered this with the gravity children bring to important decisions. "Do you like hot chocolate?" "I love hot chocolate." "Okay, you can be friends then." Daisy took Noah's hand and started pulling him toward the playground. "Come on, I want to show you the good swings." Noah caught Vivian's eye over his daughter's head and saw his own surprise reflected there. The ease of it, the lack of awkwardness Daisy usually showed with strangers. They followed her to the swings, and Vivian proved herself by pushing without being asked, matching the rhythm Daisy liked, laughing when Daisy kicked her legs higher and demanded to touch the sky. "Daddy, push Miss Vivian!" Daisy called, and before Noah could process the request, Vivian was in the swing beside his daughter, looking startled and then game. And Noah found himself pushing them both, these two people who'd been strangers days ago, now moving in tandem against the winter sky. An hour passed, then another. Daisy showed Vivian how to make snow angels properly, critiquing her technique with serious authority. Vivian asked about school and listened to Daisy's rambling explanation of her teacher's pet hamster and the ongoing drama of who got to feed it on weekends. When Daisy's nose started running from the cold, Vivian produced tissues from her pocket like she'd come prepared for exactly this emergency. "There's a coffee shop across the street," Noah said finally, watching Daisy shiver despite her coat. "They make good hot chocolate." The place was crowded with weekend families, but they found a corner table. Daisy ordered hot chocolate with extra marshmallows and announced she needed to wash her hands, disappearing toward the bathroom with the confidence of a child who'd been here dozens of times. "She's amazing," Vivian said once they were alone. Her cheeks were pink from cold, her hair messed from the wind, and she looked more relaxed than she had in the restaurant. "Noah, she's absolutely amazing." "I know." He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup, needing the warmth. "She's the best thing I've ever done. The only thing I'm sure I got right." "Does she ask about her mother?" "All the time." Noah's throat went tight. "I keep Caroline present. We have photos up. We talk about her. We visit her grave on important days. Daisy's therapist says that's healthy, keeping the memory alive. But it's hard. She'll ask these questions I don't have answers to, like, why did mommy have to die? Or didn't mommy love us enough to stay? And I just..." He stopped, swallowed. "I don't know how to explain randomness to a 7-year-old. I don't know how to make it make sense when it doesn't make sense to me either." Vivian reached across the table and rested her hand on his, brief and warm. "You're doing it right, keeping her present. A lot of people would try to erase the past, start fresh. Caroline's not erasable." Noah met her eyes. "And I wouldn't want her to be. She's Daisy's mother. That doesn't change." "I'm not asking it to." Vivian pulled her hand back as Daisy emerged from the bathroom, but her expression held something Noah couldn't quite name. Respect, maybe, or relief that he wasn't trying to rewrite history. Daisy climbed into her chair and attacked her hot chocolate with enthusiasm, marshmallows coating her upper lip. Miss Vivian, do you have kids? Noah tensed, but Vivian answered with steady calm. No, I don't. I can't have children. Something about my body doesn't work right for that, but I really like kids. I always wanted to be around them. That's sad. Daisy said it with straightforward sympathy, no judgment. You'd be a good mom. You push swings good. Vivian's smile went wobbly at the edges. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a long time. Do you want to see my drawings? I have some at home. Daisy looked at Noah for permission. Can Miss Vivian come over? It was too fast, Noah's instinct said. Too soon to bring someone into their home, their space, the place where Caroline's presence was strongest. But Daisy's face was open and hopeful, and Vivian was looking at him with careful neutrality, clearly leaving the choice to him. If Miss Vivian wants to, Noah said carefully. I'd love to, Vivian said. The apartment felt smaller with Vivian in it, her tailored presence somehow highlighting the worn furniture and scuffed floors. But she didn't seem to notice or care, too busy admiring Daisy's drawings that covered the refrigerator, responding to each one with specific observations that proved she was actually looking. When Daisy dragged her to the small second bedroom to see the collection of rocks and feathers and other treasures, Noah heard his daughter's voice bubbling with excitement, sharing her world. Emily called while they were there. Noah stepped into the kitchen to answer, keeping his voice low. How's the mysterious Saturday plan? His sister asked. I'm bringing someone home. Well, I brought someone home. She's here now. A pause. Noah, are you having a stroke? Did you just say, her name is Vivian. I met her on that Christmas date. It's complicated. Noah watched through the doorway as Vivian examined a feather Daisy insisted was from a cardinal. Really complicated, but Daisy likes her. Daisy likes her? Noah, you don't introduce Daisy to random dates after one meeting. What the hell is going on? Can I tell you later, after I figure it out myself? He heard the pleading in his own voice. I know this sounds crazy, but I think I need to try. I think we might need this. Emily was quiet for a long moment. Okay, but I'm coming over tomorrow and you're telling me everything. And if this woman hurts my niece, I know. I'll help you hide the body. Damn right you will. When Noah returned to the bedroom, he found Vivian sitting on the floor, Daisy leaning against her shoulder, both of them looking at a photo album, Caroline's album, the one Noah had put together for Daisy, full of pictures from before. That's my mommy, Daisy was saying, pointing to a photo of Caroline hugely pregnant, glowing. She died when I was 5, but Daddy says she's always watching me. She's beautiful, Vivian said softly. You look like her, same smile. Daddy says that too. Daisy turned a page. That's when I was born. Mommy said I was the best present ever. Noah stood frozen in the doorway, watching this woman he barely knew handle the most precious pieces of his past with careful reverence, not threatened by the ghost of Caroline, but respectful of her place. Daisy was relaxed against her, trusting in that uncomplicated way children had when they sensed safety. Vivian looked up and met Noah's eyes, and something passed between them. An understanding, maybe, or a promise. This wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about building something new alongside what had been. The rest of the afternoon passed in surprising ease. Vivian stayed for an early dinner of grilled cheese and tomato soup, listening to Daisy's elaborate story about playground politics and responding with the kind of interest that couldn't be faked. When it was time to leave, Daisy hugged Vivian goodbye without prompting, squeezing tight. Will you come back? Daisy asked. Vivian glanced at Noah, a question in her eyes. He nodded. If your dad says it's okay, I'd really like to. It's okay, right, Daddy? Yeah, Noah said, his voice rough. It's okay. He walked Vivian to her car, a sleek sedan that had probably cost more than 3 years of his salary. In the parking lot, with Daisy waving from the apartment window above, Vivian turned to face him. Thank you for letting me meet her, she said, for trusting me with her. You were good with her, really good. Noah shoved his hands in his pockets against the cold. I wasn't expecting, most people don't know how to talk to kids, but you just treated her like a person? Vivian smiled. She is one, a pretty remarkable one. She hesitated, then continued. Noah, I meant what I said in the restaurant. I'm not looking for a transaction or a convenience. If we do this, if we try, I want to do it right. I want to actually care about her, about you, about building something real. That's what I want too. Noah looked up at his daughter's window, at the light glowing there. But I need you to understand, this isn't just about us. Whatever happens, Daisy's stability comes first. If at any point this stops working, if she gets hurt or confused then we stop, Vivian interrupted firmly. I'm not here to disrupt her life, Noah. I'm here because I think maybe we could make each other's lives better, all three of us. She climbed into her car and drove away, and Noah stood there until her taillights disappeared around the corner. When he went back upstairs, Daisy was already putting on her pajamas. I like Miss Vivian, she announced. She's nice, and she didn't treat me like a baby. I noticed that. Noah helped her brush her teeth, the familiar routine grounding him. Would it be okay if she came around more, spent time with us? Daisy rinsed and looked at him in the mirror, her expression serious. Is she going to be your girlfriend? The question was landmine and invitation both. Maybe. Would that be okay with you? Will she try to be my new mom? Noah turned Daisy to face him, crouching so they were eye level. Nobody can replace your mom. Nobody. Miss Vivian knows that. But if she becomes part of our family, she'd care about you, want to be there for you. Is that something you think you'd like? Daisy was quiet for a long moment, thinking with that intensity children brought to life-changing questions. Can I still talk about Mommy? Always. Forever. That never changes. Okay then. Daisy hugged him quickly. I think I'd like Miss Vivian in our family. She makes you smile different. Different how? I don't know. Less sad different. Daisy pulled back and studied his face. You're always a little sad, Daddy, even when you're happy. But today, you weren't. The observation hit Noah like a physical thing. He hadn't realized how transparent his grief had been, how much his daughter had been tracking his pain alongside her own. Get in bed, sweetheart, he managed. Pick a book. That night he read 3 chapters of Charlotte's Web, and when Daisy finally drifted off, Noah sat on the edge of her bed and watched her sleep. His phone buzzed with a text from Vivian. Thank you for today. Daisy's extraordinary. You're doing an amazing job. He typed back, when can I see you again? The response was immediate. Whenever you want. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Vivian came to the park again, then to dinner at Noah's apartment. She brought art supplies for Daisy and actually used them. The two of them sprawled on the living room floor creating elaborate scenes. She asked questions about Caroline without awkwardness, listening to Noah's stories about his late wife like they mattered, like keeping that memory alive was important rather than threatening. The third weekend, Vivian invited them to her apartment, and Noah saw for the first time the space she inhabited. High ceilings, enormous windows, furniture that belonged in magazines. But Vivian had cleared her coffee table and set out supplies for making gingerbread houses, flower dusting her expensive counters, and Daisy was so delighted she forgot to be intimidated. This is the fanciest place I've ever been, Daisy whispered to Noah while Vivian was getting more frosting. Pretty nice, huh? Are we allowed to touch stuff? Noah hugged his daughter. Miss Vivian invited us here. Of course we're allowed. But he understood Daisy's hesitation because he felt it too, this sense that they were tourists in Vivian's world, visitors who didn't quite belong. When Vivian returned and saw them standing stiffly by the windows, she seemed to read the moment immediately. You know what this place needs? She said. More mess. It's too clean, too perfect. It doesn't feel lived in. She picked up a marshmallow and deliberately dropped it on the floor. There. Better already. Daisy giggled, and just like that, the tension broke. They built gingerbread houses. Vivian's collapsed twice, sending them all into laughter, and made such a mess that Noah worried about the pristine space. But Vivian didn't seem to care, too busy helping Daisy add candy windows and explaining the physics of frosting as structural adhesive. Later, after Daisy fell asleep on Vivian's couch mid-movie, Noah carried his daughter to Vivian's guest room while Vivian followed with blankets. They tucked her in together, moving around each other with surprising coordination, and when they stepped back into the hallway, Noah found himself acutely aware of Vivian's proximity in the dim light. She's out cold, Vivian said softly. Long day. She'll sleep until morning now. Noah followed Vivian back to the living room where evidence of their afternoon was everywhere: frosting on the table, sprinkles on the floor, half-built gingerbread structures listing dangerously. "I'm sorry about the mess." "Don't be." Vivian started collecting dishes, and Noah helped, the two of them working in comfortable silence. "This is the most alive this place has felt in years. Usually it's just me and my laptop and takeout containers." "Do you like it? This apartment?" Vivian looked around as if seeing it fresh. "I thought I did. It checked all the boxes. Good neighborhood, close to work, impressive for meetings. But honestly, it's lonely. All this space just for me." She paused at the sink, her back to him. "Do you know what I thought when I saw your apartment? I thought it looked like home. Like people actually lived there and loved each other and weren't afraid to take up space." Noah moved closer, close enough to see the tension in her shoulders. "We're all learning how to do this. None of us has a script." She turned to face him, and in the low light of her kitchen, Noah saw past the competence and control to someone just as uncertain as he was. "I'm terrified I'm going to screw this up," Vivian admitted, "that I'll do or say something wrong and Daisy will get hurt, and you'll realize I'm not equipped for this." "You think I'm not terrified?" Noah's laugh was low and rough. "Vivian, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm making this up as I go, hoping I don't damage my kid while trying to figure out my own life." "You're doing better than you think." "So are you." Noah reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture more intimate than he'd intended. Vivian went very still, her eyes searching his face. "Daisy loves you, I can see it. The way she lights up when you're around, the way she shares her world with you. She doesn't do that with people unless she feels safe." "And you?" Vivian's voice was barely above a whisper. "Do you feel safe?" The question lodged in Noah's chest. Did he? With this woman who'd materialized out of rejection and desperation, who looked at his daughter like she was precious rather than problematic, who somehow made the weight of his grief feel shareable rather than isolating. "I'm starting to," he said honestly. Vivian's smile was small and real. "Good. Me too." They didn't kiss, weren't ready for that yet. But Noah took her hand, squeezed it once, and felt her squeeze back. A promise of something neither of them could name, but both were hoping to build. He woke the next morning to find Daisy already up, sitting at Vivian's breakfast bar with a bowl of cereal, chattering about her upcoming school art show. Vivian was making coffee, hair pulled back, wearing sweats that made her look younger and softer. And when she caught Noah's eye, she smiled with such warmth that something in his chest cracked open. This could be real, he thought. This could actually work. Emily came over that afternoon as promised, taking one look at Noah's face and demanding answers. They sat at his kitchen table while Daisy played in her room, and Noah told his sister everything: the restaurant, the proposal, the logic that wasn't quite logic, the way Vivian had fit into their lives like maybe she'd been missing all along. "This is insane," Emily said when he finished. "I know. You've known her less than a month." "I know. And you're actually considering what? Marrying her?" Noah met his sister's eyes. "I'm considering seeing where this goes. Taking it seriously. Letting Daisy get attached. All the things everyone says you're not supposed to do." Emily was quiet, studying him with the intensity she'd had since they were kids, the look that said she was reading between his words. "You're falling for her." "Maybe." Noah couldn't deny it. "She makes Daisy happy. She makes me feel less like I'm drowning. Is that enough?" "I don't know, is it?" "Caroline would want me to be happy," Noah said. And saying it out loud felt like permission. She'd want Daisy to have more than just me, struggling to hold it together. She'd want us to have family. "Then I guess you already have your answer." Emily reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Just promise me you'll be careful, that you won't let Daisy get hurt." "That's all I care about." But as the weeks turned into months, as winter gave way to early spring, Noah discovered that careful wasn't really possible. Daisy grew more attached, calling Vivian unprompted to share school news, asking when they'd see her next. Vivian started keeping spare clothes at Noah's apartment, staying over more weekends, folding herself into their routines with seamless ease. And Noah found himself looking for her in empty rooms, reaching for his phone to share moments, imagining mornings that stretched into years. They still hadn't talked about marriage specifically, both dancing around the original proposal like it was too big to touch. But they were building something, piece by piece, and that felt more real than any legal document. Then came Daisy's school art show, and everything changed. The elementary school gymnasium smelled like tempera paint and floor wax, its walls transformed into a gallery of second-grade masterpieces. Noah stood near the entrance with Vivian, watching Daisy bounce on her toes beside her artwork, positioned prominently near the refreshment table. His daughter had been talking about this night for weeks, practicing what she'd say when people asked about her drawing, choosing her outfit with meticulous care. The purple dress with flowers that Caroline had bought her before she died, paired with the sparkly shoes Vivian had given her last week. "She's so excited she's vibrating," Vivian murmured, her hand finding Noah's. The gesture was automatic now, natural after 3 months of building this fragile new thing between them. "I've never seen her this lit up." She worked hard on that piece, redid it twice because the colors weren't right. Noah felt pride swell in his chest. Her teacher says she has real talent. They moved closer as other families filtered in, parents clutching cameras, and grandparents offering stiff praise. Daisy's drawing was impossible to miss, a large piece of construction paper covered in careful crayon work, 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun. The detail was remarkable for a 7-year-old. Each figure had distinct features, individual clothing, specific expressions. On the left stood a tall man in blue. In the middle, a small girl with wild curls and a gap-toothed smile. On the right, a woman with dark hair pulled back wearing the same purple sweater Vivian had worn to their first dinner. Labels beneath each figure, written in Daisy's careful printing. The man. "My daddy." The girl. "Me." The woman. "My new mom." Noah's breath caught. He'd known Daisy was drawing something special, but she'd kept it hidden, wanting to surprise him. He looked at Vivian and saw his own shock mirrored there, along with something else, something deeper. Her eyes were shining, her hand trembling in his. "Noah," she whispered. "Did you know?" "No, she didn't tell me." His voice came out rougher than intended. "Vivian, if this is too much—" "It's perfect," Vivian said, and her smile was incandescent. "She's perfect." Daisy spotted them and came running, throwing herself at Vivian's legs. "Do you like it? I made it special for you." Vivian crouched down, cupping Daisy's face with both hands. "I love it. It's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever made for me." "Really?" Daisy's eyes went wide. "Because I wanted to show everyone my family, my whole family." The words hung in the air, precious and dangerous. Noah felt something crack in his chest, joy mixed with terror, hope tangled with the fear of what came next. Because this wasn't just a drawing, this was Daisy claiming Vivian, declaring to her entire school that she had a new mother, making real what they'd all been dancing around for months. "Come see the rest." Daisy grabbed Vivian's hand and dragged her toward the other artwork. Noah followed, watching his daughter point out her classmates' pieces, introducing Vivian to other kids with unself-conscious pride. "This is my new mom," she said to anyone who'd listen. "She's really good at art, and she knows about computers, and she makes the best hot chocolate." Most people smiled and nodded, offering congratulations that suggested they assumed Vivian was a stepmother-to-be, a happy ending to whatever tragedy had preceded this. But Noah saw the looks too, the assessing glances, the whispered conversations, the way some parents pulled their attention away like they were witnessing something inappropriate. He was talking to Daisy's teacher, accepting praise for his daughter's artistic development, when he heard the voice behind him. "Noah Pierce, I didn't expect to see you here." He turned to find Linda Chen standing there, arms crossed, expression somewhere between concern and judgment. Linda had been Caroline's closest friend, her college roommate and eventual maid of honor, the person Caroline had trusted with everything. After the funeral, Linda had tried to stay present, offering to help with Daisy, bringing casseroles Noah barely touched. But something in her eyes had always made Noah feel like he was failing some invisible test, not grieving correctly or moving forward appropriately, and eventually her visits had tapered off into occasional texts checking in. "Linda." "Hi." Noah's stomach nodded. Daisy's been looking forward to this for weeks. I can see that. Linda's gaze moved past him to where Vivian was crouched beside Daisy, examining another child's painting with genuine interest. And who's that? That's Vivian. She's... Noah hesitated, suddenly unsure how to finish that sentence. What was Vivian? His girlfriend? His partner? The woman he was maybe going to marry? She's important to us. Important. Linda's voice went flat. Noah, can we talk? Privately? It wasn't really a question. Noah glanced at Vivian, caught her eye, and saw her subtle nod. Go. Handle this. We'll be fine. He followed Linda out into the hallway, away from the cheerful noise of the art show, into the fluorescent quiet of empty classrooms. What the hell are you doing? Linda demanded once they were alone. I'm at my daughter's art show. I'm supporting... You know what I mean. Linda's composure cracked, revealing anger beneath. That woman in there, Daisy's drawing, my new mom. Noah, Caroline hasn't been gone 3 years. 3 years, and you're already replacing her? The word replacing hit like a slap. That's not what's happening. Isn't it? You bring some stranger around, let Daisy get attached, and now she's calling her mom? What about Caroline? What about her memory? Caroline is Daisy's mother. That hasn't changed. Noah forced himself to stay calm, to not rise to the bait. But Caroline's gone, Linda. She's been gone, and Daisy needs you to respect her mother's memory. She needs you to not rush into something because you're lonely or desperate or can't handle being a single parent. Linda's eyes were bright with tears now. Caroline loved you so much. She trusted you to take care of Daisy, to keep their bond alive. And here you are, letting some other woman step into her place like Caroline was replaceable. It's not like that. But Noah's voice sounded weak even to himself. Then what is it like? Explain to me how, less than 3 years after my best friend died, you found someone new and your daughter is already calling her mom. Noah opened his mouth to answer, to defend himself and Vivian and the strange, imperfect thing they were building. But before he could speak, another voice cut through the hallway. Is everything okay out here? Vivian stood in the doorway, backlit by the gymnasium lights, Daisy's hand in hers. His daughter looked worried, picking up on the tension even if she didn't understand it. We're fine, Noah said quickly. Linda and I were just discussing whether it's appropriate for strangers to insert themselves into grieving families, Linda interrupted, her attention fixed on Vivian. You must be the new mom. The words dripped sarcasm. Vivian's expression didn't change, but Noah saw her fingers tighten around Daisy's. I'm Vivian Hale. And you are? Linda Chen. I was Caroline's best friend. I was there when she married Noah, when Daisy was born, when she died. Linda's voice broke on the last word. I was there for all of it. So forgive me if I'm a little concerned about some woman swooping in and taking her place. I'm not taking anyone's place. Vivian's voice was steady, but Noah heard the strain beneath. Caroline is Daisy's mother. I would never try to replace her or diminish her memory. And yet here you are, letting a 7-year-old call you mom. Linda's laugh was bitter. How convenient for you. Instant family, no pregnancy required. Did it ever occur to you that Daisy's attachment might not be healthy? That she's latching on to you because she's desperate for a mother figure and you're the first woman to show interest? That's enough. Noah stepped between them, his patience finally snapping. Linda, I appreciate your concern, but this isn't your business. Daisy is my business. Caroline made me her godmother. She trusted me to look out for her daughter if anything happened. And I'm telling you, this is wrong. This is too fast, too much, too disrespectful to Caroline's memory. Daddy? Daisy's small voice cut through the argument. Why is Miss Linda yelling? Noah looked at his daughter and felt everything crystallize, the fear in her eyes, the confusion, the way she was pressing against Vivian's leg for safety. This was supposed to be her night, her moment to shine, and instead she was watching adults fight about her mother's ghost. He crouched to Daisy's level. Miss Linda and I are just having a disagreement, sweetheart. Grown-up stuff. It's not your fault. Is she mad about my drawing? Daisy's lower lip trembled. Is it bad that I drew Miss Vivian? No, baby. Your drawing is beautiful. Noah pulled his daughter into a hug, felt her small body shake against his. You didn't do anything wrong. But over Daisy's shoulder, he saw Linda's expression, hurt and righteous and certain. And he saw the other parents who'd followed the commotion into the hallway, watching this drama unfold. He saw Vivian standing apart, her face carefully neutral but her posture rigid, and he realized with sinking certainty that this moment was fracturing something. "Maybe we should go," Vivian said quietly. "Daisy, do you want to take your drawing home?" "I want to stay." Daisy pulled back from Noah, her chin jutting out with stubborn determination. "It's my art show. I worked hard." "You did, sweetheart." Linda's voice softened, and she moved closer, kneeling beside Daisy. "Your artwork is beautiful, but, honey, I need you to understand something. Your mommy, your real mommy, she loved you so much. She would have been so proud of you tonight. And I don't want you to forget her just because your daddy has a new friend." "I don't forget mommy." Daisy's voice rose, indignant and hurt. "I think about her every day. But she's not here and Miss Vivian is, and I love her too. Why can't I love both?" The question hung in the air, pure and devastating in its simplicity. Out of the mouths of children, Noah thought distantly, came the truths adults were too complicated to see. Linda stood, her face crumbling. "Noah, I can't watch you do this. I can't watch you erase Caroline like she never mattered." "I'm not erasing anyone," Noah said, but his voice lacked conviction. Because wasn't he, by letting Vivian in, by allowing Daisy to call her mom, wasn't he making Caroline smaller, less essential, easier to forget? The thought was poison, seeping through his certainty. He looked at Vivian and saw her watching him, waiting, and suddenly he was terrified of making the wrong choice, of hurting Daisy, of betraying Caroline's memory, of losing Vivian, of everything. "Vivian is helping out," he heard himself say. "She's been kind to Daisy, that's all." The words came out flat and wrong, and he saw Vivian's face change, saw the understanding dawn, then the hurt, then the careful blankness as she armored herself against what was happening. "Helping out," Vivian repeated softly. "Right." "I didn't mean," Noah started, but he didn't know how to finish. Didn't mean what? To minimize her? To choose the easier path? To fold under pressure like he always did? "Daddy, what's wrong?" Daisy tugged his sleeve. "Why are you being weird?" "I'm not, sweetheart. I'm just..." He looked at Linda, at the gathering crowd of parents, at his daughter's art hanging in the gymnasium proclaiming a family that suddenly felt presumptuous. "I'm just trying to do the right thing." "Then let's go home." Vivian's voice was steady, but her eyes were killing him. "Daisy, sweetheart, why don't you go get your backpack? Your dad can grab your drawing." Daisy looked between them, sensing the wrongness but unable to articulate it. She ran back into the gymnasium, and the moment she was gone, Vivian turned to Noah with an expression that would haunt him. "Just helping out?" she said again. "Is that what I am to you? After 3 months, after everything, I'm just helping out?" "Vivian, you know that's not..." "I don't know anything anymore." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I thought we were building something. I thought I was becoming part of your family. But the second someone questions it, you fold. You reduce me to some convenient friend who's nice to your kid." "I panicked," Noah admitted, hating himself. "Linda was right there, and everyone was listening, and I just..." "You were ashamed," Vivian finished. "Ashamed of me, of us, of whatever this is, because when it came down to it, you'd rather protect your dead wife's memory than fight for our future. That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Vivian's laugh was hollow. "Noah, I have spent 3 months falling in love with your daughter, with you. I have rearranged my life, opened my home, given you everything I have, and at the first sign of judgment, you call me a friend, someone helping out, like I'm your nanny or your charity case or anything except what I actually am, someone who loves you both and thought you loved me too." "I do." The words ripped out of him. "Vivian, I do love you. But not enough to claim it, not enough to stand up in front of people and say, this is my family, this is the woman I choose, this is our life together." She was crying now, silent tears tracking down her face. "I can't do this, Noah. I can't be your secret shame, the replacement you're too guilty to acknowledge." Daisy emerged with her backpack, holding her drawing carefully. She looked at Vivian's tears and her expression crumpled. Miss Vivian, why are you sad? Was it my drawing? I can fix it. I can. Your drawing is perfect, baby. Vivian crouched and pulled Daisy into a fierce hug. You are perfect. Don't ever think you did anything wrong. Then why are you crying? Vivian looked at Noah over Daisy's head, and he saw the answer in her eyes. Because your father is too scared to choose me. Because this is ending. Because love isn't always enough. Sometimes grown-ups get upset, Vivian said carefully. It's not your fault. It's just complicated. I don't want complicated. Daisy's voice was muffled against Vivian's shoulder. I want you to stay. I know, sweetheart. Vivian pulled back, wiping her eyes. But sometimes what we want and what we get are different things. She stood, avoiding Noah's gaze, and walked toward the exit. Noah stood frozen, his daughter clutching her drawing, Linda watching with grim satisfaction, and the weight of his cowardice crushing his chest. Let her go, Linda said quietly. It's better this way, cleaner. But Daisy was staring at the gymnasium doors where Vivian had disappeared, and her face was breaking in real time, understanding settling in that something precious was being taken away, that the family she'd drawn so carefully was fracturing. Daddy, go get her, Daisy pleaded. Please, she's my new mom. Tell her she's my new mom. Daisy, it's complicated. It's not! His daughter was crying now, full-body sobs that drew more attention, more judgment. She loves us and we love her, and that's not complicated. But Noah couldn't move. Couldn't run after Vivian and take back his words, couldn't stand in this hallway and declare his love in front of everyone who thought he was betraying Caroline's memory. He was paralyzed by fear and guilt and the desperate need to not mess this up any further, and in his paralysis he was messing up everything that mattered. Emily appeared from somewhere, took in the scene with quick understanding, and immediately moved to Daisy's side. Hey, sweetheart, let's get you home, okay? Aunt Em's got you. I want Miss Vivian, Daisy sobbed. I know, baby, I know. Emily shot Noah a look that said they'd be talking later, then guided Daisy toward the exit. Linda touched Noah's arm with what was probably meant to be comfort. You did the right thing, she said. Caroline would be proud. But as Noah stood in that empty hallway, surrounded by children's artwork celebrating families that made sense, he wasn't sure Caroline would be proud at all. She'd told him, in those last lucid moments before the ambulance came, to be happy, to give Daisy a full life, to not let grief consume them both. And he'd just chosen grief, chosen fear, chosen the easier path of staying stuck rather than the terrifying work of moving forward. He found Daisy's drawing where Emily had left it, propped against the wall. 3 figures holding hands. My daddy, me, my new mom, his daughter's careful crayon work declaring a truth Noah hadn't been brave enough to claim. He picked it up and walked out into the parking lot. Emily's car was already gone, taking Daisy home where she'd cry herself to sleep asking for Vivian. Noah sat in his own car and pulled out his phone, staring at Vivian's contact information, trying to find words that would fix this. But what could he say? I'm sorry I was too scared to fight for you. I'm sorry I chose dead approval over living love. I'm sorry I'm exactly the kind of man who folds under pressure. His phone buzzed with a text from Emily. What the hell just happened? He couldn't answer, couldn't explain how spectacularly he'd failed everyone who mattered. Instead, he drove home through streets gone blurry, pulled into his parking spot, and sat there staring at his daughter's drawing until the security light clicked off and left him in darkness. When he finally went inside, Emily was on the couch, fury radiating off her in waves. Daisy cried for an hour, she said without preamble. She kept asking why you let Miss Vivian leave, why you said she was just helping out, why you lied. I didn't lie. The hell you didn't. Emily stood, getting in his face. Noah, I have watched you fall in love with that woman. I've seen you smile again, laugh again, act like maybe life could be good. And tonight you threw it away because Caroline's friend made you feel guilty? It's more complicated than that. It's not. Emily's voice cracked. Jesus, Noah, you sound like Daisy. She said the same thing. It's not complicated. You love Vivian. Vivian loves you and Daisy. That's the whole equation. Everything else is just fear. I'm not afraid. You're terrified, Emily interrupted. You're terrified of betraying Caroline, of moving on, of being happy again when she can't be. And I get it, I do. But Noah, Caroline is dead. She's gone. And you have a little girl in there who just lost another mother because you were too scared to choose her. The words were brutal and true. Noah sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. How to honor Caroline and love Vivian. How to move forward without feeling like I'm leaving Caroline behind. You do both. Emily sat beside him, her anger softening into sympathy. You keep Caroline's memory alive for Daisy. You talk about her, celebrate her, make sure Daisy knows her mother, but you also get to have a life, Noah. You get to love someone new. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Linda said, Linda is still grieving her best friend and taking it out on you. She doesn't get a vote in your life. Emily grabbed his hand. But Daisy does. And Vivian does. And you just hurt them both because you were too worried about what other people think. Noah looked at his sister through burning eyes. What do I do? You figure out what you actually want. Not what you think you should want. Not what makes other people comfortable. What you want. And then you fight for it. Emily squeezed his hand hard. But Noah, if you decide you want Vivian, you have to really want her. You have to be all in. Because that woman deserves better than someone who's half committed and ashamed to claim her. She was right. Of course she was right. Noah thought about Vivian's face when he'd called her just a friend, the devastation poorly hidden. Thought about Daisy sobbing for her new mom while he stood frozen in fear. Thought about the past 3 months, the laughter, the ease, the way his apartment had started feeling like a home again instead of a mausoleum to what he'd lost. I want her, he said quietly. I want all of it. The family Daisy drew, the life we were building. I want Vivian. Then tell her that, not me. Her. But when Noah tried calling, Vivian didn't answer. He texted and got nothing back. He called again at midnight, and it went straight to voicemail, which meant she'd turned her phone off entirely. He'd blown it. Completely, spectacularly blown it. Noah went to Daisy's room and found his daughter asleep, her face blotchy from crying, her hands clutching the stuffed rabbit Caroline had given her. On her bedside table was a piece of paper, something Daisy must have written before bed. He picked it up and felt his heart shatter completely. In careful crayon letters, Daisy had written, I want Miss Vivian to be my new mom. She makes Daddy smile. She loves me. Please come back. Love, Daisy. Beneath it, she'd drawn a family again. The same 3 figures, but this time tears fell from all their faces. Noah sat on the edge of his daughter's bed and wept. The note sat on Noah's nightstand for 3 days, a constant reminder of everything he'd destroyed. Daisy had stopped asking about Vivian after the 2nd day, which was somehow worse than the questions. She'd gone quiet, drawing in her room for hours, and when Noah finally worked up the courage to look at what she was creating, he found page after page of the same image. 3 figures, always crying, always separated by distance, his daughter rendered in careful crayon. Work became mechanical. Noah fixed cars without thinking, his hands performing tasks his brain didn't register. His coworkers noticed but didn't ask, giving him wide berth as he moved through the shop like a ghost. At night, he'd sit in his apartment and stare at his phone, willing Vivian to call, to text, to give him any opening to apologize. But there was only silence, and Noah was too much of a coward to break it first. Emily called every day, checking on Daisy, offering to help. On the 4th day, she showed up unannounced, letting herself in with her spare key. You look like hell, she said, taking in Noah's unshaven face and rumpled clothes. Thanks. Have you called her? She won't answer. Have you tried going to her apartment, her office, actually making an effort instead of just sitting here feeling sorry for yourself? Emily dropped her purse on the counter with enough force to rattle the dishes. Noah, you don't get to give up. You broke this. You need to fix it. I don't know how. Yes, you do. Emily grabbed his phone and thrust it at him. You tell her the truth, that you were scared and stupid and you chose wrong, that you love her, that you want to fight for this. What if she won't listen? Then at least you tried. At least you were brave enough to put yourself out there instead of hiding behind your fear. Emily's expression softened. But Noah, you have to decide first. Are you really ready for this? Because if you go to Vivian and pour your heart out, you can't take it back. You can't fold again the next time someone judges you. You have to be all in. Noah looked at Daisy's note, still sitting where he'd left it. His daughter wanted a family, deserved one. And Vivian had been offering exactly that. Not a replacement for Caroline, but a new chapter, a different kind of love built on honesty and choice rather than obligation. I'm ready, he said. I want this. I want her. Then go get her. Noah showered and changed, his heart hammering against his ribs. He had no plan, no speech prepared, just a desperate need to see Vivian and make her understand that she wasn't helping out or filling a gap. She was essential, chosen, loved. Her apartment building looked the same as it had 3 months ago, when they'd built gingerbread houses and made such a beautiful mess. Noah buzzed her unit and got no response. Tried again. Nothing. He was about to leave when another resident came out, holding the door open with distracted politeness, and Noah slipped inside before he could talk himself out of it. The elevator ride to the 8th floor felt eternal. Noah's reflection in the mirrored walls showed a man barely holding it together, eyes red-rimmed and desperate. He knocked on Vivian's door and waited, listening for movement inside. Knocked again, harder. Vivian, I know you're probably not home, but I need to say this. I need you to hear me. He pressed his forehead against the door. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I said, for making you feel like you were anything less than essential to us. You're not helping out. You're not a friend. You're the person I love. And I was too scared to say it when it mattered. Silence answered him. Noah felt his throat close, tears burning behind his eyes. Daisy misses you. She's been drawing pictures of us, and we're all crying in them because I broke our family before it even had a chance to be whole. His voice cracked. I was terrified of betraying Caroline's memory, of moving on too fast, of being happy when she can't be. But she'd hate this. She'd hate me for choosing fear over our daughter's happiness, for choosing guilt over love. Still nothing. Noah slid down to sit against her door, too tired to stand. I found this note Daisy wrote. She said she wants you to be her new mom, not because she's forgotten Caroline, she'll never forget Caroline, but because she loves you, because you make her feel safe and seen and like she matters. And she's 7 years old, and she's braver than I am because she's not afraid to love you completely. He wiped his eyes. I want to be that brave. I want to stand in front of everyone and say, this is my family. This is the woman I choose. This is our life together. I want all of it, Vivian. But only if you'll still have me. The door behind him didn't open. No sound emerged from inside. Noah sat there for another 10 minutes, hoping, before finally accepting that she wasn't home. Or she was home and had no interest in hearing his apologies. Either way, he'd set his peace to an empty apartment. He left a note under her door, his phone number, though she already had it, and a simple message. I love you. Please give me a chance to prove it. The drive home felt longer than it should have. Noah checked his phone obsessively at red lights, hoping for a response that didn't come. When he got back to his apartment, Daisy was sitting at the kitchen table with Emily, both of them working on homework. Did you find her? Daisy asked, her eyes too hopeful. She wasn't home, sweetheart. His daughter's face fell. Is she ever coming back? I don't know. Noah crouched beside her chair. But I'm trying. I'm trying to fix what I broke. You should try harder. Daisy's voice was small but firm. She's worth trying hard for. You're right, she is. That night, Noah barely slept, jumping at every notification sound, hoping one would be from Vivian. But there was only silence, and by morning he felt hollowed out, scraped clean of everything but regret. He was at work, elbow deep in an engine rebuild, when his phone finally rang with an unfamiliar number. Noah answered with grease-stained hands. Is this Noah Pierce? A woman's voice, professional and crisp. Yes? This is Rebecca Hale, Vivian's mother. Noah's stomach dropped. Is she okay? Did something happen? She's fine. Physically. Rebecca's tone suggested Vivian was very much not fine in other ways. But I'm calling because my daughter has been crying in her apartment for 4 days, refusing to come to family dinner, refusing to answer my questions about what happened. And then this morning, A mutual acquaintance mentioned seeing her with a man and a child at some restaurant months ago, and I put pieces together. Mrs. Hale, I can explain. I'm not interested in explanations. I'm interested in whether you're the reason my daughter is heartbroken. Rebecca didn't wait for an answer. Vivian has spent years getting rejected by men who couldn't handle her success or her inability to have children. I watched her close herself off, decide she was better off alone. Then, 3 months ago, she started smiling again, coming to dinner, talking about plans that included other people. And now she's back to not answering calls and working 18-hour days to avoid going home. It's my fault, Noah said quietly. I hurt her. I was scared and I said things I shouldn't have, and I'm trying to fix it. Are you? Rebecca's skepticism was palpable. Because from where I'm standing, you left a note under her door and gave up. She won't answer my calls, won't talk to me. What else can I do? You can fight harder. Rebecca's voice sharpened. My daughter doesn't open herself up to people. The fact that she let you and your child in means something, and if you care about her at all, you'll prove you're worth that trust. I do care. I love her. Then show her. Rebecca paused. Vivian's at her office. She's been practically living there since whatever happened. If you actually want to fix this, you'll stop hiding behind phone calls and face her in person. The call ended before Noah could respond. He stared at his phone, Rebecca's words echoing in his head. She was right. He'd made one attempt and given up, too afraid of rejection to really fight. But Vivian deserved better. Daisy deserved better. Noah found his supervisor and requested the rest of the day off, citing a family emergency that was true in every way that mattered. The drive to Vivian's office building took 20 minutes through downtown traffic, and Noah spent it rehearsing what he'd say, how he'd make her understand. Hale Dynamics occupied the 10th floor of a gleaming tech hub, all glass and chrome, and the quiet hum of expensive computers. The receptionist looked up as Noah entered, taking in his work clothes and oil-stained hands with barely concealed judgment. I need to see Vivian Hale, Noah said. Do you have an appointment? No, but Ms. Hale doesn't see anyone without an appointment. The receptionist's smile was professionally dismissive. I can schedule something for next month if you'd like. This can't wait. Noah leaned on the desk, desperate. Please, just tell her Noah is here. She'll know who I am. The receptionist looked uncertain, then picked up her phone and murmured something Noah couldn't hear. After a moment, she hung up and shook her head. Ms. Hale says she's busy. She suggests you make an appointment like everyone else. So Vivian knew he was here and chose not to see him. The rejection stung worse than Noah expected. He stood there, uncertain, until a woman emerged from the interior offices, mid-50s, perfectly dressed, with Vivian's sharp features and assessing eyes. Rebecca Hale. You must be Noah, she said. I thought you might actually show up. Mrs. Hale. Noah felt wrong-footed, underprepared. I need to talk to Vivian, just 5 minutes. She doesn't want to see you. I know, but I have to try. Noah met Rebecca's eyes, letting her see his desperation. I made a mistake. I hurt your daughter when she was offering me everything I'd been looking for. And I need to tell her that I love her, that I choose her, that I want to build a life together. Rebecca studied him for a long moment, and Noah saw where Vivian got her ability to read people. Do you have children, Mr. Pierce? A daughter, Daisy. She's 7. And your wife passed away 2 years ago. Understanding flickered across Rebecca's face. So you come with complications. I come with a past and a child and grief I'm still working through, Noah said honestly. But I also come with love for your daughter, with respect for who she is, with wanting to give her the family she deserves. And 4 days ago? What happened then? Noah felt shame burn through him. Someone from my late wife's life confronted me at my daughter's school event, questioned whether I was moving on too fast, whether I was disrespecting my wife's memory, and I panicked. I minimized what Vivian means to us, called her a friend when she's so much more, and I hurt her because I was too afraid to stand up for what we were building. Why should I believe you won't do it again? Because I know what I lost now. Noah's voice went rough. I know what it feels like to have Vivian in our lives and then lose her. And it's worse than any judgment, any gossip, any guilt. Daisy is drawing pictures of us crying. She wrote me a note begging for Vivian to come back. And I'm standing in this office building begging you to let me see your daughter because I can't lose her. I can't lose us." Rebecca was quiet, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded once, sharp and decisive. "Follow me." She led Noah through the offices, past cubicles where employees worked on multiple monitors, past conference rooms with glass walls, to a corner office with Vivian's name on the door. Rebecca knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. Vivian was at her desk, surrounded by printouts and laptops, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, a coffee cup that had probably been refilled a dozen times, the hollow look of someone running on fumes. When she saw Noah, her expression went carefully blank. "Mom, what?" "You have a visitor," Rebecca said. "I'll give you privacy, but Vivian, actually listen to him. Don't just shut down." She squeezed her daughter's shoulder and left, closing the door behind her. Silence stretched between them. Noah stood awkwardly near the door while Vivian stared at her computer screen like it held answers to questions she hadn't asked. "You shouldn't be here," Vivian said finally. "I know, but I needed to see you." Noah took a tentative step closer. "You wouldn't answer my calls." "Because I don't want to do this. I don't want the apologies or the explanations or the promises that you'll be braver next time." Vivian's voice was steady, but her hands shook as she closed her laptop. "I can't be someone you're ashamed of, Noah. I can't be the secret you keep because acknowledging me feels like betraying your dead wife." "You're not." "I am." She finally looked at him, and her eyes were devastating. "You stood in that hallway and called me a friend, someone helping out. You reduced 3 months of building a life together into casual assistance because one person questioned it. And I can't live like that. I can't love you and Daisy and know that the moment we face judgment, you'll fold." "I was wrong." Noah moved closer, desperate for her to hear him. "Vivian, I was terrified and stupid, and I chose the easy path instead of fighting for us. But I'm here now. I'm fighting now. 4 days later, after how much damage? I know I should have come sooner, should have called you that night, should have run after you instead of standing there like a coward." Noah's voice cracked. "But I'm here, and I'm telling you that I love you, not as someone who's filling a gap or helping out or making my life easier. I love you as the woman I want to build a life with, the woman who makes my daughter smile again, the woman who's become essential to my happiness." Vivian looked away, but not before Noah saw tears shining in her eyes. "It's not enough." What do you need?" Noah asked desperately. "Tell me what you need, and I'll do it. I need to know that next time, and there will be a next time, you'll choose us. That you won't crumble under judgment or guilt, or whatever fear tells you loving me means betraying Caroline." Vivian's hands clenched on her desk. "I need to know I'm not second best. Not the consolation prize because you can't have your wife back. Not the convenient option because I can't have kids and you already have one. You're not second best." Noah rounded her desk, kneeling beside her chair so they were eye level. "Vivian, you're not a replacement or a convenience. You're the woman I choose. Present tense, active choice. I choose you. You didn't choose me in that hallway. You're right, I didn't. I chose fear and guilt and what other people thought instead of what my daughter and I actually needed." Noah took her hand, felt how cold her fingers were. "But I'm choosing you now, and I'll keep choosing you every day, even when it's hard." "How do I trust that?" Vivian's voice broke. "How do I trust that you won't do this again the next time someone questions us?" "You probably can't, not based on words." Noah squeezed her hand. "But let me show you. Let me prove it. Give me another chance, and I swear I will stand up for us. I'll claim you in front of everyone. I'll tell the whole damn world that you're my family if that's what it takes." Vivian pulled her hand away, wrapping her arms around herself. "I can't go through this again, Noah. It almost broke me the first time. Watching you choose safety over me, hearing you minimize what we were building, I can't do that twice." "I know." Noah stayed on his knees, making himself vulnerable in a way he'd avoided for years. "And I'm not asking you to trust blindly. I'm asking you to let me earn it back, to give me a chance to be the man you and Daisy deserve." "Daisy." Vivian's face crumpled slightly at the name. "How is she?" "Drawing pictures of us crying." writing notes asking for you to come back, breaking my heart every time she asks if you're ever coming home. Noah's throat tightened. She loves you, Vivian, and not because she's desperate for a mother figure or because you're convenient. She loves you because you see her, because you treat her like she matters, because you chose her too. Vivian wiped her eyes, smearing mascara. I miss her. I miss you both so much. And I hate that I miss you. Then come back. Noah dared to touch her knee, gentle and asking. Come back and let me spend the rest of my life proving I'll never make that mistake again. It's not that simple. Why not? Because Vivian stood abruptly, moving to the window overlooking downtown. Because I've spent my entire adult life being rejected. By men who wanted biological children. By family who thought I should compromise my career. By a society that says women like me are incomplete. And I thought I'd built armor strong enough to handle it. But then I met you and Daisy, and you made me hope. You made me think maybe I could have the family I'd given up on. And when you rejected me too, in front of all those people, it confirmed every fear I've ever had about being too much, or not enough, or fundamentally unlovable. The raw honesty in her voice destroyed Noah. He crossed to stand behind her, not touching, but close enough to feel her warmth. You're not unlovable, he said quietly. You're extraordinary. You're brilliant and kind, and you make gingerbread houses with 7-year-olds, even though your kitchen is spotless. You listen to rambling stories about playground drama like they're the most important thing in the world. You've opened your life to a grief-hollowed mechanic and his daughter without asking for anything in return except honesty and partnership. And you couldn't even give me that. Vivian's reflection in the window showed tears streaming down her face. You couldn't be honest about what I was to you when it mattered. I was terrified of getting it wrong, of hurting Daisy or betraying Caroline or moving too fast or… Noah stopped, forced himself to be honest. I was terrified of being happy, of admitting I could love someone again. Because if I loved you, really loved you, that meant I'd survived losing Caroline, that life had continued without her, and some part of me felt like I didn't deserve that. Vivian turned to face him, her eyes searching. Do you still feel that way? Sometimes, Noah admitted, but I also know that Caroline would want me to be happy. She'd want Daisy to have a full life, a complete family. She'd want us to choose love instead of martyring ourselves to grief. He took a shaky breath. And I know that loving you doesn't diminish what I had with Caroline. They're different loves, different chapters, both real, both important. I don't want to compete with a ghost, Noah. You're not competing. You're writing a new story. Noah risked reaching for her hand again, and this time she let him. Caroline was my past, my foundation, the mother of my child. But you're my future, if you'll have me. Vivian looked down at their joined hands. I need time to think about whether I can trust this, trust us. How much time? I don't know. She met his eyes. But Noah, if we try again, if I let you back in, you need to understand something. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to be quiet or convenient or apologize for taking up space in your life. And if that scares you, if that makes you uncomfortable when people judge, then this won't work. I don't want you to hide. Noah squeezed her hand. I want everyone to know. I want to shout it from wherever people shout things. I want Daisy's drawing of our family on my refrigerator and your toothbrush in my bathroom and your presence in every part of my life. A small smile tugged at Vivian's mouth. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest. Noah pulled her closer. I love you. I want to marry you. I want to give Daisy the new mom she's been asking for. I want all of it, Vivian. But I understand if you need time to believe that. Vivian studied his face for a long moment, and Noah let her look. Let her see everything, the fear and hope and desperate love he'd been too scared to show before. Okay, she said finally. Okay? Okay, you can try. You can prove you mean this. Vivian's smile grew slightly. But Noah, if you hurt me again, hurt Daisy again, I'm done. No third chances. No more apologies. Just done. I won't hurt you again, Noah promised. I swear. Don't swear. Just show me. Vivian pulled her hand back, creating distance. Start by going home and telling Daisy that I haven't abandoned her, that I love her, and that I need a little time but I'm not disappearing. Can I tell her you'll come to dinner this weekend? Vivian hesitated, then nodded. Saturday. But Noah, we're taking this slow. I'm not just sliding back into your life like nothing happened. Slow is fine, as long as we're moving forward together. Together, Vivian echoed, and the word sounded like a promise neither of them was quite ready to make, but both desperately wanted. Noah left her office feeling lighter than he had in days. The drive home passed in a blur of planning. He'd clean the apartment, get groceries, let Daisy help cook something special. They'd show Vivian they were worth the risk, worth the second chance she was offering. Daisy was with Emily when Noah got home, both of them working on a puzzle at the kitchen table. His daughter looked up with cautious hope. Did you find her? I found her. Noah crouched beside Daisy's chair. And she misses you so much, sweetheart. She wanted me to tell you that she loves you, and she hasn't forgotten about you. Is she coming back? She's coming to dinner on Saturday, if that's okay with you. Daisy launched herself at Noah with enough force to nearly knock him over, squeezing tight. I knew you'd fix it. I knew you'd bring her home. We're not all the way fixed yet, Noah cautioned. Miss Vivian and I are still working things out. But she wants to see you. She wants to be part of our family. Our whole family, Daisy insisted. Like in my drawing. Yeah, baby, our whole family. Emily caught Noah's eye over Daisy's head and mouthed, good job. Noah felt something in his chest ease, the knot of fear and regret loosening slightly. This wasn't fixed yet. Vivian still had doubts, still needed proof, and Noah still had to figure out how to love someone new while honoring his past. But for the first time in days, he had hope. Saturday arrived after a week that felt like a year. Noah cleaned until his apartment gleamed. Daisy helped make cookies that were slightly burnt but made with love, and together they set the table with Caroline's good dishes, the ones they only used for special occasions. Is it okay that we're using Mommy's plates? Daisy asked, suddenly uncertain. Noah pulled his daughter close. I think Mommy would want us to use them for family dinners, don't you? Yeah, Daisy brightened. Miss Vivian's family now. The doorbell rang at exactly 6. Noah opened it to find Vivian standing there with flowers and wine and visible nervousness. She dressed carefully, not the suit armor she wore for work, but not casual either. Something in between, like she wasn't sure what this dinner was or who they were to each other anymore. Hi, she said. Hi. Noah wanted to pull her inside, kiss her, promise everything would be okay. But he remembered what she'd said about going slow, so he just stepped back to let her in. Thanks for coming. Miss Vivian! Daisy appeared from the kitchen and threw herself at Vivian's legs. I missed you so much. Vivian dropped to her knees, pulling Daisy into a fierce hug. I missed you too, sweetheart, so much. Daddy says we're still working things out, but you're coming back to our family. We are working things out, Vivian confirmed. But Daisy, I need you to know something. I didn't leave because of you. You didn't do anything wrong. This was grown-up stuff between your dad and me. I know. Daisy pulled back, her expression serious. But you're here now, and we made cookies. Over dinner, spaghetti that Daisy helped make, salad, the burnt cookies, they talked carefully around what had happened, focusing instead on what Daisy had been learning in school, a new client Vivian had signed, the transmission Noah was rebuilding at work. It felt almost normal, almost like before, except for the careful space they all maintained, the awareness that this was fragile. After Daisy went to bed, clutching promises from Vivian that she'd come back soon, Noah and Vivian sat on the couch with coffee. Neither of them was drinking. Thank you for coming, Noah said. Thank you for fighting for this. Vivian set her mug down. For not giving up after one try. I almost did. But my sister, and your mother actually, wouldn't let me. My mother called you? Told me I needed to fight harder, that you deserved better than a note under your door. Noah smiled slightly. She was terrifying and right. That's Mom. Vivian's expression softened. She likes you, by the way. Called me after you left my office and said if I let you go, she'd stage an intervention. Do you? Want to let me go? Vivian looked at him for a long moment. No, but I'm still scared. Me too. Noah took her hand, the gesture feeling both new and familiar. But maybe we can be scared together. Work through it together. Maybe. Vivian squeezed back. Noah, I meant what I said. If we do this, I need all of you. Not the version that's careful and guarded. The real, messy, still grieving version. Because that's who I fell in love with. You fell in love with me? The words made Noah's heart skip. Of course I did, you idiot. Vivian's smile was watery. Why do you think it hurt so much when you called me a friend? Noah lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. I love you too, and I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that. Good. Vivian leaned against him and Noah wrapped his arm around her shoulders, holding her close. Because Daisy deserves better than broken promises. And so do I. They sat there in the quiet of his apartment, surrounded by evidence of dinner and family and fragile hope, and Noah felt something settle in his chest, not the absence of grief, but the possibility of joy alongside it. This was still complicated, still uncertain, but for the first time since Caroline died, Noah let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could build something whole from their broken pieces. Part 5. Lưu ý, viết sau nên sống ra một từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện, và hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ. Phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lăn man. Phần 5 giải quyết hết vấn đề và kết thúc trọn vẹn câu chuyện. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document 12-25. They rebuilt slowly, carefully, like archaeologists piecing together something precious from fragments. Vivian came to dinner twice a week, then 3 times, then started staying weekends again. She and Noah moved around each other with new awareness, touching more deliberately, choosing words with greater care. The ease they'd had before was gone, replaced by something harder earned and more intentional. Daisy noticed the difference. She was quieter around them at first, watching to make sure Vivian wouldn't disappear again, testing the stability of what they were rebuilding. But gradually, her confidence returned, and with it came questions Noah wasn't entirely prepared to answer. Daddy, is Miss Vivian your girlfriend now? She asked one morning over pancakes, Vivian still asleep in the guest room where she'd spent the night. Noah flipped a pancake to buy time. Yes, sweetheart, she is. Are you going to marry her? The question hit harder than it should have. Marriage had been the starting point of this whole impossible thing, Vivian's desperate proposal in a restaurant on Christmas. But they'd never circled back to it, too busy rebuilding trust to talk about legal commitments. I don't know, Noah said honestly. Would you want me to? Daisy considered this with her usual gravity. I drew a picture of our family, all of us together. I want that to be real. It is real, baby. We don't need a wedding to be a family. But weddings make it official. Daisy stabbed her pancake with more force than necessary. Emma's mom got married last year, and now Emma has a new dad official. I want Miss Vivian to be my new mom official. Noah sat down beside his daughter, the spatula still in his hand. Daisy, I need you to understand something. When Miss Vivian and I get married, she won't replace your mom. Your mom is still your mom, even though she's not here. I know that. Daisy's tone suggested Noah was being deliberately dense. But I can have a mom in heaven and a new mom here, right? Emma has a mom and a stepmom, and she loves both. Why can't I? The logic was irrefutable, delivered with the clarity children brought to complicated adult emotions. Noah pulled Daisy into his lap, breathing in the syrup-sweet smell of her hair. You're right. You can love both. And if Miss Vivian becomes your new mom, that doesn't take anything away from the mom you had. Good. Daisy squirmed free and returned to her pancakes. So when are you asking her? That's not something you rush, sweetheart. You've known her for like 1,000,000 months. That's not rushing. 4 months, Noah thought. They'd known each other 4 months, and half of that had been rebuilding after he'd destroyed everything. But Daisy had a point. They'd started with a marriage proposal. The end point had always been clear, even if the path there had gotten twisted. That night, after Daisy was asleep, Noah found Vivian on his couch with her laptop, working on what she claimed was just a quick email but was probably her third hour of work since dinner. He took the computer from her hands and set it aside. "We need to talk." Vivian's expression went guarded. "That's never a good opening." "It's not bad, just important." Noah sat beside her, taking her hand. "Daisy asked me this morning if I was going to marry you." "What did you tell her?" "That I didn't know. That we were taking things slow." Noah studied their joined hands, the way their fingers fit together. "But Vivian, we started this whole thing with you proposing to me. And I know everything got complicated and we had to rebuild, but where are we going? What are we building toward?" Vivian was quiet for a moment, her thumb tracing circles on his palm. "I don't know. I thought I knew when I proposed that night. I thought I had it all figured out, a logical solution to both our problems. But this isn't logical anymore. This is messy and real, and it terrifies me." "Me too." Noah shifted to face her fully. "But I meant what I said. I love you. I want to build a life with you. I want Daisy to have the family she drew. And if that means marriage, if that's what makes it real for her, for us, then I want that too." "Is this you proposing?" Vivian's voice was careful, like she was afraid of the answer. "Not yet. This is me asking if you'd say yes if I did." Vivian pulled her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself in that gesture Noah had learned meant she was protecting something vulnerable. "Noah, the first time I proposed, it was out of desperation. I thought if I could just solve the problem logically, if I could find someone who needed what I had, and vice versa, it would all work out. But I've learned that love isn't a transaction. It's not something you can logic your way into." "I know that." "Do you?" Vivian met his eyes. "Because I need you to understand. If we get married, it's not because it's convenient, or because Daisy needs a mother, or because we both got tired of being rejected. It's because we actively choose each other, every single day, even when it's hard. That's what I want." Noah reached for her again, and this time she let him pull her close. "I choose you, Vivian." Present tense, active voice. "Not because you solve my problems, but because my life is better with you in it. Even when I'm difficult, when I work too much and get snippy about small things and have trouble letting go of control, especially then." Noah kissed her forehead. "You think I'm some prize? I'm a mess. I wake up some mornings still reaching for Caroline. I have panic attacks in grocery stores because they're playing a song from our wedding. I'm terrified of being happy because happiness feels like betrayal." "You're not a mess." Vivian's voice was fierce. "You're a man who loved his wife and lost her too soon and is doing his best to build something new without forgetting what came before." "That's not mess, Noah. That's courage." "Then be courageous with me." Noah tilted her chin up so she had to look at him. "Marry me. Not because it makes sense or solves problems. Marry me because we love each other and we want to build a family, and we're both tired of being scared." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "That's not a proper proposal." "I know, the proper one comes later, with a ring and planning and doing it right." Noah wiped a tear from her cheek. "But I need to know, if I ask, will you say yes?" "You're impossible," Vivian said, but she was smiling through her tears. "Yes, you idiot. Yes, if you ask properly, I'll say yes." Noah kissed her then, deep and sure, and felt something fundamental shift in his chest. This was real. They were really doing this, building a family from grief and desperation and love that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with choice. The next morning, Noah called his sister. "I need help," he said without preamble. "I'm going to propose. Actually propose properly, and I have no idea what I'm doing." Emily's shriek nearly deafened him. "Oh my God, finally! When? How? Do you have a ring?" "No ring yet. That's where you come in." Noah paced his bedroom while Vivian made breakfast with Daisy, their voices carrying down the hall. "I want to do this right. I want it to be special, meaningful, but I don't know how." "Where did you propose to Caroline?" Emily asked gently. Noah felt the familiar pang, but it was softer now, less like a wound and more like a memory. "The park where we had our first date. It was snowing and I didn't have a ring yet, just this overwhelming certainty that I wanted to spend my life with her." "Then don't do it there. That's Caroline's place." Emily's voice was firm. This proposal needs to be about you and Vivian and the family you're building. Where did you meet her? A restaurant, but she was at a different table, and Noah stopped, remembering. Wait, the restaurant, where she asked me to be her husband. That's where it started. That's perfect. Emily sounded delighted. Book the same restaurant, the same table if you can. Come full circle. Show her you're choosing this deliberately, not just falling into it. And the ring? We'll go shopping this weekend. But Noah, it doesn't have to be huge or expensive. It needs to be right for her. Think about what Vivian would actually want to wear every day. They spent Saturday afternoon at jewelry stores while Vivian took Daisy to a movie, giving Noah space to shop. He rejected the huge diamonds immediately, too flashy, too much like what Vivian's family would expect. He passed over elaborate settings that would catch on keyboards and make working difficult. Finally, in the fourth store, he found it, a simple platinum band with 3 small diamonds set flush, elegant and practical, and unmistakably hers. That's the one, Emily confirmed. Now you need to plan the actual proposal. Noah called the Italian restaurant and asked for the same table where they'd first met, explaining the situation to a manager who turned out to be a romantic and blocked it off for the entire evening. He arranged for Emily to keep Daisy overnight, told Vivian he wanted to take her to dinner to celebrate their 4-month anniversary, and spent the week before the date nearly vibrating with nerves. You're being weird, Vivian said 3 days before, watching him burn toast for the second time that morning. What's going on? Nothing, just distracted. About what? Work stuff. It wasn't even a convincing lie, but Vivian let it go, though her expression said she knew he was hiding something. The night of the proposal arrived cold and clear, early March snow dusting the streets. Noah put on the one good suit he owned, the same one he'd worn to Caroline's funeral, which felt wrong until he decided it felt right, like he was bringing his past into his future deliberately. He picked up Vivian from her apartment and tried not to stare at how beautiful she looked in a simple black dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. You're overdressed for just dinner, she observed, climbing into his car. Maybe I wanted to look nice for you. You always look nice. This is suspicious nice. Vivian narrowed her eyes. Noah Pierce, what are you planning? You'll see. The restaurant looked exactly as it had on Christmas. Same twinkling lights, same pine tree in the corner, though the decorations were different now. The host led them to their table, and Noah saw Vivian's face change as she recognized it. This is where we met, she said softly. You remembered which table? Of course I remembered. Noah held her chair, then sat across from her in the spot he'd occupied 4 months ago when his life had fractured and reformed. This is where you asked me an impossible question. About being your husband. Vivian's smile was complicated, joy and pain and memory tangled together. I was so desperate that night, so tired of being rejected. I thought if I could just find someone practical, someone who needed what I had, it would all work out. And instead you found me. Broken and grieving and completely unprepared for what you were offering. You weren't broken. Vivian reached across the table for his hand. You were surviving, taking care of your daughter, doing the best you could with impossible circumstances. We both were, Noah said, and somehow we found each other at exactly the right moment, or exactly the wrong moment. I'm still not sure which. They ordered wine and dinner, falling into easy conversation about Vivian's latest client and Daisy's upcoming spring concert, and the small, ordinary details that made up their life together. Noah was hyper-aware of the ring box in his jacket pocket, its weight both comforting and terrifying. He'd rehearsed what he wanted to say, but now that the moment was approaching, all his planned words felt inadequate. Their entrees arrived. They ate slowly, drawing out the evening, and Noah noticed Vivian watching him with growing suspicion. You're definitely planning something, she said. You keep touching your jacket pocket. Maybe I'm just nervous. About what? About whether you'll say yes. Vivian's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Noah, wait! He stood, aware that other diners were starting to notice, and moved to kneel beside her chair, pulled out the ring box with shaking hands. I know we talked about this. I know I already asked in the least romantic way possible if you'd say yes. But I wanted to do this properly, to show you I'm choosing this, choosing us, with full intention and no reservations. Vivian's eyes were already shining with tears. Around them, the restaurant had gone quiet, other patrons watching this scene unfold. 4 months ago, you sat at this table and asked if I could be your new husband. You were desperate and exhausted and looking for a logical solution to an illogical problem. And I was so broken I actually considered it, because at least your rejection came with possibility instead of just more doors closing. Noah opened the ring box, and Vivian gasped at the simple elegance inside. But this isn't that anymore. This isn't desperation or logic or solving each other's problems. This is me, on my knees, asking the woman I love to build a life with me, to be Daisy's new mom, not because we need one, but because you already are one in every way that matters, to be my partner and my family, and the person I choose every single day. Vivian pressed her hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. I can't promise I'll never be scared again, Noah continued. I can't promise I won't have moments where grief hits me sideways or I panic about being happy. But I can promise that I will choose you through all of it. I will fight for us. I will stand in front of anyone, family, friends, strangers, and say, this is my wife, this is my family, this is the life I choose. No more hiding, no more calling you a friend when you're everything. He took a shaky breath. Vivian Hale, will you marry me? For real this time, with full hearts and no backup plans. Vivian was nodding before he finished, reaching for him with trembling hands. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. Noah slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did, because Emily had helped him guess the size and gotten it right. Vivian pulled him up and kissed him with the whole restaurant watching, and someone started clapping, and then everyone was clapping, and Noah felt lighter than he had in years. I love you, Vivian whispered against his mouth. I love you so much, and I can't believe we're actually doing this. We're doing this. Noah kissed her again, tasting salt from her tears and wine from dinner and the promise of their future. We're really doing this. They barely touched dessert, too busy staring at the ring on Vivian's finger and making plans they'd been too scared to voice before. Where they'd live. Her apartment was bigger, but his held Daisy's memories. Whether they'd have a big wedding or something small. How to tell Daisy, who'd been asking about this for weeks. We should tell her together, Noah said as they drove back to his apartment, where Emily was keeping Daisy for the night. She deserves to be part of this. Tomorrow? Vivian looked at her ring in the streetlight, the diamonds catching and throwing light. I don't know if I can wait. Tomorrow, first thing. Noah squeezed her hand. But tonight is just us. Our engagement, our celebration, before we bring in the rest of the world. They spent the night at Vivian's apartment, and for the first time since Caroline died, Noah made love to someone without guilt haunting the edges. He chose this, chose her, chose their future with clear eyes and full commitment. And afterward, lying tangled together in her enormous bed, he felt Caroline's presence not as accusation, but as blessing, as if his late wife was finally at peace knowing her daughter and her husband would be loved and cared for. Morning came too quickly. Noah woke to find Vivian already dressed, pacing her bedroom with nervous energy. What if Daisy's not as excited as we think? She asked. What if this is too fast for her, or she feels like we're forcing something? Daisy's been asking me when I'm going to propose for weeks. Trust me, she's going to lose her mind. Noah pulled on his clothes from last night, rumpled from being thrown on the floor. But we're doing this together, both of us telling her, both of us showing her this is a decision we made as a family. They picked up breakfast pastries on the way to Noah's apartment, arrived to find Emily answering the door with knowing eyes. Well, she demanded, did you do it? Did she say yes? Vivian held up her left hand, the ring glinting. Emily shrieked and pulled them both into a hug. I knew it! I knew you two were perfect for each other from the start. She was bouncing on her toes like Daisy did when excited. When's the wedding? Can I help plan? Oh, Daisy's going to die. Where's Daisy? Noah asked. Playing in her room. She doesn't know you're here yet. Emily's expression turned serious. Are you sure you want to tell her this way? It's a big thing. We're sure, Vivian said firmly. She's part of this family. She deserves to know. They found Daisy on her bedroom floor, surrounded by crayons and paper, working on another drawing. She looked up as they entered, and her face lit up. Miss Vivian! Daddy! You're back early! Then she spotted their joined hands, the ring, and her eyes went wide. Did Daddy ask you? He did, Vivian said, kneeling beside Daisy. At the restaurant where we first met. And I said yes. Daisy launched herself at Vivian with enough force to knock them both over, squealing with delight. You're getting married! You're going to be my new mom for real! For real, Vivian confirmed, laughing and crying at the same time. If that's okay with you, it's perfect, Daisy pulled back, her face serious despite the joy radiating off her. But Miss Vivian, I need to ask you something important. Anything, sweetheart. Can I call you Mom? Not instead of my other mom, but like my mom who's here? Because you do all the mom things, and I love you like a mom, and it feels weird calling you Miss Vivian when you're my family. Vivian's face crumpled, and she pulled Daisy close again. I would be honored if you called me Mom. So honored. What about my other mom? In heaven? Daisy looked at Noah, needing confirmation. She's still my mom too, right? Noah sat on the floor beside them, pulling his daughter into his lap, so she was surrounded by both her parents. Always, forever. Your mom in heaven loves you so much, and she's always going to be your mom. But now you have a mom here too, who loves you just as much. You get both. Some kids don't even get one mom, and you get two. I'm pretty lucky, Daisy said, and her simple acceptance made Noah's throat close up. We're all pretty lucky, Vivian said. She looked at Noah over Daisy's head, and he saw everything there, love and hope, and the terrifying vulnerability of building something new. We found each other when we all needed family, and now we get to be one. The next weeks passed in a blur of planning and logistics. They decided on a small wedding, just family and close friends, nothing elaborate, because neither of them wanted a spectacle. Vivian's mother threw herself into helping. Her initial skepticism about Noah transformed into wholehearted approval now that her daughter was finally, properly, happy. Emily served as maid of honor and unofficial wedding coordinator, keeping everything organized while Noah and Vivian navigated the complicated process of merging their lives. They chose to live in Vivian's apartment. More space for Daisy, a better neighborhood, room for all of them to breathe. Noah felt guilty at first, leaving the apartment where Caroline had lived, but when he mentioned it to Daisy, she just shrugged. Mommy's not in the apartment, Daddy. She's in our hearts. We can take her with us. So they packed up carefully, Noah setting aside Caroline's jewelry and letters for Daisy to have when she was older, and moved into Vivian's space that quickly became their space. Daisy claimed the guest bedroom and immediately covered the walls with her artwork. Noah's tools found a place in the storage unit. Vivian cleared closet space and drawer space and made room in every way that mattered. 2 months after the engagement, they stood in a small chapel with their closest people and made promises that felt both huge and simple. Noah wore the same suit from the proposal. Vivian wore a dress the color of champagne, elegant and understated. And Daisy stood between them in her purple dress with flowers, holding the rings, beaming with such pride that Noah had to blink back tears. Do you, Noah Pierce, take Vivian Hale to be your lawfully wedded wife? The officiant asked. I do. Noah's voice was steady, sure. He looked at Vivian and saw his future, complicated and imperfect and chosen with full knowledge of what it meant. And do you, Vivian Hale, take Noah Pierce to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Vivian was crying again, happy tears that made her eyes bright. I absolutely do. They exchanged rings. Noah's a simple band that matched Vivian's, both engraved inside with the date they'd first met. When the officiant pronounced them married and Noah kissed his wife, Daisy cheered loudly enough to make everyone laugh. At the small reception afterward, held in the same Italian restaurant where everything began, Linda Chen appeared. Noah tensed, but she approached with her hands raised in peace. I owe you an apology, she said quietly, her eyes on Vivian. I was wrong. About everything. I was so caught up in protecting Caroline's memory that I couldn't see you were building something new, not erasing what came before. Thank you, Noah said, because Vivian seemed too emotional to speak. Linda turned to Vivian. Caroline would have loved you. She would have been so grateful her daughter has someone like you. I'm sorry I made you feel otherwise. Vivian hugged her, and Linda hugged back, and Noah felt another piece of his fractured world settle into place. This was possible, he realized. Honoring the past while embracing the future, loving Caroline's memory while building a life with Vivian, being Daisy's father while giving her a mother who was here, present, choosing them every day. The reception wound down as evening fell. Noah danced with Daisy, then with Vivian, then watched Vivian dance with his daughter while Emily took pictures. His family. Not the one he'd planned for or expected, but the one he'd chosen and fought for and built from impossible beginnings. "You look happy," Emily said, appearing at his elbow with champagne. "I am." Noah accepted the glass, surprised by how true it was. "I didn't think I could be after Caroline, but I am." She'd be glad. Emily clinked her glass against his. That's all she ever wanted, for you and Daisy to be happy and loved. You found that. In the weirdest way possible, but you found it. Noah laughed, thinking about that Christmas night, the desperate proposal, the improbable journey from strangers to family. It was pretty weird. The best things usually are. Later, after the reception ended and Daisy went home with Emily for the night to give Noah and Vivian their wedding night alone, they returned to the apartment that was now officially theirs. Vivian kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. "We did it," she said, collapsing onto the couch. "We actually got married." "Having second thoughts?" Noah teased, sitting beside her. "Not even a little." Vivian turned to face him, her expression soft. "Noah, I know we started this whole thing for the wrong reasons, because we were desperate and tired and looking for solutions. But somewhere along the way, it became real. It became exactly what I needed without knowing I needed it." "Me too." Noah pulled her close. "I thought I'd never love anyone again after Caroline. Thought that was my one great love and I'd just coast through the rest of my life on autopilot. But you changed that. You made me believe I could have a full life, not just a half-life sustained by memories." "I love you," Vivian said simply. "Not because you solved my problems or gave me a ready-made family. I love you because you're kind and brave and you make terrible pancakes and you cry at children's movies and you're raising an extraordinary daughter who's going to change the world." "I love you too." Noah kissed her forehead. "And I promise, I will choose you every day for the rest of our lives. No more folding, no more fear, just us, building whatever comes next." They sat there in their living room, in their home, in the life they'd built from rejection and hope. Outside, the city carried on, full of people facing their own impossible choices. But here, in this moment, everything felt possible. 6 months after the wedding, Noah came home from work to find Vivian and Daisy making a mess in the kitchen, flour everywhere, both of them laughing. His daughter, their daughter, ran to hug him, leaving white handprints on his work shirt. "We're making cookies for Mommy's business meeting tomorrow," Daisy announced. "The good kind, not the burnt kind." "Hey," Noah protested, "my cookies are rustic." "They're burnt," Vivian corrected, but she was smiling. She crossed to kiss him, tasting like chocolate chips and happiness. "How was work?" "Good. Fixed 3 transmissions and Mrs. Henderson's ancient Volvo that should have been retired 5 years ago." He looked around at their kitchen, at the evidence of their life together. Daisy's artwork on the fridge, Vivian's laptop on the counter, Caroline's good dishes drying in the rack because they used them for regular dinners now instead of saving them for special occasions. This was his life. Messy and complicated and nothing like what he'd planned, but it was real and chosen and full of ordinary miracles, the kind that happen when you were brave enough to say yes to impossible questions. "Daddy?" Daisy tugged his shirt. "Can we go to the park tomorrow? All of us." "Of course, baby." "The park where you asked Mom to marry you?" "If you want." Noah looked at Vivian, saw her nod. "We can make it a family day." "Our whole family," Daisy said, with the satisfaction of someone who'd drawn a picture of this exact moment months ago and watched it come true. That night, after Daisy was asleep and the kitchen was clean and they were curled together on the couch, Vivian showed Noah something she'd found while organizing old files, a napkin from that Christmas night at the restaurant, on which she'd written in hasty pen, "What if I asked him? What's the worst that could happen?" "I almost chickened out," she admitted. "I sat there watching you get rejected and talked myself out of it 3 times. It was such an insane idea." "I'm glad you didn't chicken out." Noah traced the words on the napkin. "I'm glad you were brave enough to ask an impossible question. And I'm glad you were brave enough to say yes. Vivian kissed him. Eventually. Eventually, Noah agreed. But we got here. That's what matters. Outside their windows, the city sparkled with lights and lives and stories still being written. Inside, they had everything they needed: each other, their daughter, the family they'd chosen and fought for, and built from broken pieces. It wasn't a replacement life. It wasn't second-best love. It was simply their life, complicated and imperfect and more than Noah had ever dreamed of having again. And it had started with a stranger at a restaurant on Christmas night, asking the impossible and getting a future neither of them had planned for, but both had desperately needed. Some love stories began with logic and ended with hearts. Some began with endings and found new beginnings. Some started with a question so crazy it might actually work. Can you be my new husband? And sometimes, against all odds and expectations, the answer was yes.